I could not define worship any better than that. And so that is, to me, I thought it was a great video for us to be able to conclude what we've been doing over the last 4 weeks. If you've been here, you guys know we've been doing this series called Worshiper. And if this is not, well, if you haven't been around for a little bit, then guess what? We've been doing a series called Worshiper. And today we're wrapping it up right before we get and move on to our Christmas theme. Now, something, guys, I want you to understand is this is crazy for some of us who've been here for a little bit. This is the last real theme for the year, because really soon it's going to go into the Christmas theme, and after that it's a brand new year. And so this one is, to me, it's very interesting, very amazing how God has led us to be able to end one of the last things that he wants us to walk away from when it comes to 2016 is this understanding of worship, but more importantly, not just understanding of worship, but understanding of a worshiper. And you saw it played out in that video, right? What does it mean to worship? And it's something that we've been making the case, guys, that look, who's a worshiper? Do me a favor, raise your hand and point to yourself and say me, okay? This guy, all right? This guy, you guys, all right? We are all worshipers. This is not something that you turn on and turn off. This is not something that happens when the music starts and then it stops when the music doesn't. Worship is not something that happens when you show up to church and then when you leave, it's over. No, see, every time, every breath that you take, every action that you do is an expression of worship. We all do it. We are constantly looking for affirmation, and who you are as a person has been shaped by everything externally outside of yourself, because we are constantly looking to ascribe worth to things that we give. And so that's what worship is. And when we worship, we give ourselves of these things, right? We sacrifice time, attention, money into all these things to give us whether entertainment or joy or happiness, right? This is stuff that we do and people that we're with. Worship is something that we don't turn off, because you and I are worshipers. Everything that we do is worship. So the question is, if everything I do is worship, then the question ought to be, who then am I worshiping? If I can't turn this off, then who is receiving the bulk of my worship? And how do I know I'm giving God the worship he deserves? See, Jesus laid it out. This is the verse that we've been looking at, guys. We're talking about how to live out the songs that we sing. And Jesus and Mark, in the book of Mark, okay, this is one of the dudes that was there, lived during the time of Jesus, knew these guys, all right, knew eyewitness there. And he's giving an account of this conversation that he had. If we can put it up on the screen, this is Mark, and he's talking. And this is what a life of a worshiper looks like, guys. This is what it is. He says that this is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. That's what worship is. See, at the core of it, notice the theme is what? It's love. Because worship is nothing but ascribing worth to. And look, let's be honest. The things that we give our attention to, our money to, our time to, we don't do things if we have a choice to. We're not going to do things that we don't like to do. Okay? If we have a choice and we have a say in the matter, we're going to do things that benefit us, that we like, right? That we love, especially the things that we love. And so here he's saying, out of all things, this is what worship looks like. And this is how you know if you're worshiping God, because you got to make sure that you are loving him with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. And that's what we've been looking at. Today we're going to focus a little bit on this last part, on how to love the Lord your God with all of your strength. How do you do that? How do you do that? We love God with all of our heart. We've been talking about this by the faith that you have, what you believe. Okay? That's how you love God with all your heart, by believing, by submitting and giving your heart to God. We love him with all of our souls, because the soul is the deepest part of who you are. It's the part that very few people know. Because most of us, even be honest, some of you, I know you, and I probably don't even know the real you yet. Because we get real good at putting up the face and putting up all this stuff on the outside. But see, to love the Lord your God with all your soul is to love God without the masks, is to be able to have this personal, one-on-one, unashamed, no holding back to the deepest part of you. It's not a superficial kind of a love or relationship. It is something that is deep inside. Now, you love the Lord your God with all your mind. We talked about that last week, by the things that you think about, by the decisions that you make, and especially the things that you put in your mind. That's how we love him with our minds. But today, this one's interesting. How do you love the Lord your God with all your strength, with all of your body, right? How do you do that? And here, this whole answer that Jesus gives was the answer to one simple question. And you can see it up there, where one of the religious leaders asks him, which commandment is the most important? See, they knew, God's people knew, and the Jews knew at this time. It was like none of them could hold all of the commandments. God gave them 10, all right? Look, think of, being easy. You got 10 simple rules. That's all. If you keep these 10 rules, you're golden. But they couldn't keep 10. They couldn't keep these 10. And in fact, there were hundreds of them. And they knew that they could not keep them all. That's why they had to every year bring offerings and sacrifices to God as an act of forgiveness, because they say, look, Lord, we've messed up. We done messed up on a few of these, right? There's a few that I had a moment, all right? I just went whatever, and I had to. I'm sorry, or whatever. And so we just have moments. We have these weaknesses. We haven't, oops, I didn't mean that, or I did, but whatever. And so we just keep on going. And so we have these moments that we do this. And so there was a system in place of sacrifices where God would say, okay, if you mess up, if you make a mistake, if you sin, you can come to me and you can make a sacrifice, and I will forgive you for the year. But then how about try it again this year, right? Talking about New Year's resolutions. I don't know if you do that or not. I do. All right. And so I'm already trying to get in the running start into 2017 by setting up some better systems and momentums for myself. But guys, see, here what he's asking is, look, I can't do it all. I can't do it all. And he's asking Jesus, well, in your opinion, what's the one most important thing? The one thing that if I was successful in this one thing, hopefully it would God would kind of overlook all of the other things that I wasn't able to be successful in. But I want to know, Jesus, what's the one thing that you think I could do? And if I did this one thing, I would be successful. What is this one thing? Now, he gave him more than one thing. He gave him a lot. I was like, well, technically the one thing is love. But he expressed it, right? He says, you got to love God, love this. He said, you got to love your neighbor as yourself. But let's be honest, I'm not going to embarrass you, because you know what? We'd all raise our hands. How good are you at loving your neighbor the way you love yourself? And in fact, some of us, we even struggle with even loving our own selves, right? We just kind of don't like certain things about ourselves. Some of us, if we're honest, we'd say that. But the other thing is, do we love our neighbors as we love ourselves? I would say the tendency is we tend to love ourselves more than our neighbors, right? We just tend to, if you don't agree with me, this is our culture, then, whatever with you, all right? And so this is not easy. If you could be successful in this one thing, and Jesus just wrecks this guy's, he was hoping that maybe, let's see what kind of answer he is, but he gave this answer, I'm like, And a lot of people, when they hear this, they're like, hey, this sounds good, right? Love God. But if you really think about, look, you shall love. He is not giving an option here, okay? This isn't, look, plan A and then there's a plan B. Nuh-uh. This is what you have to, must do. And you love God not just with some, but what is he saying? With what? All of it. 24/7 from beginning to end, all of it. And so he is trying, at the same time with this response, trying to help him redefine what his idea of success is. Because he's hoping, you know what, maybe if I can do this one thing, it'll cancel out, and maybe it will outweigh all of the bad. But God, with this answer, is trying to help him, look, man, if you were successful in this one thing, it still wouldn't be enough. It still wouldn't be enough, because if you tried to, you wouldn't. See, I love this quote from this Christian thinker, D.L. Moody, if we can put it up. He says this: our greatest fear should not be failure, but of succeeding at something that doesn't really matter. Just let that one sink in for a little bit, okay? Our greatest fear should not be failure. Okay, a lot of us, we don't do certain things because we fear failure. We feel of messing up, and what happens if I don't, and I don't know, right? But he says, no, our greatest fear should not be failure, but rather succeeding at something that doesn't matter. Now, this could apply to this is, how do you love God with all of your strength? Well, it's in your abilities. It's what you do. It's with your stuff, your resources, with your time. And so, see, if we were trying to do the best that we can to honor God with our strength, with our abilities, right? Well, for those of us, if we got jobs and you're blessed to have a job, you can worship God by the way you behave at your job, by you being a faithful employee, by you giving the best and you not cutting corners, not, taking a 2-hour lunch break when you're supposed to have a 1. Okay, me and my friends, we used to when I was we used to work at a deli, we took advantage of the one free meal a day kind of a thing. And so I ate my free meal. That's what I did. But what we would also then do is, a couple businesses over was like a ice cream place, okay? And so we kind of coordinated with, Stars Ice Cream down the street, or down, a couple doors down. Like, look, hook me up with some ice cream. I got you a sandwich. And so we'd meet in the alley. It was really stupid. We'd meet in the alley. We make the exchange. I'm like, all right, see you, and we just move on. And so, I took advantage and I ate way too much, right, that I should have and stuff like that. See, that's not worshiping God. See, if you got a job, you worship God by giving 110%. You are never late to work. Okay? Never late to work. All right? You showing up with a smile on your face and you got 100%, customer satisfaction. That's how you worship God, with all of your job. If you're a student, let me tell you this one's going to hurt a little bit, okay? You worship God as a student by, take a wild guess, studying, doing your homework, turning your homework on time, okay? Doing what, not necessarily getting straight A's, but you worship God by giving your best. Are you taking notes in class? Are you Snapchatting class, right? Are you paying attention to the teacher? Are you paying attention to the cute girl across the room, right? That's how you worship God, with all of your abilities, with all of your strength and school. That is a way that you worship God. But here he says, look, even if we were a perfect student and a perfect employee and all of these things, you know what? Even when we were successful in those things, there's something that, there's something bigger than that. And this is why, guys, that quote really hit me, that I wanted to share with you, because I don't want us to be successful in something that in the end doesn't matter. In fact, you can read the scriptures, and Jesus talks about times when at the end, people are going to come to him. Again, one of the scariest verses that to me hits me every single time I even say it and hear it, where Jesus says that there's a time that's going to come that in the end, people are going to come to him and they're going to say, yo, Jesus, I made it. All right, I'm here, man. I know you've been waiting for me. All right, you good? All right, let's go. Right? And let's get inside. And for whatever reason, the door's not going to open for them. And Jesus is going to say, look, hold on. He's like, look, they just read, the people from our missions ministry just read a minute ago, right? And says, God is going to say to some, you took care of me. You gave me water to drink. You did all of these things. And they were going to say, when did we do that? He says, well, when you did it for others, through me, it's like you were doing it for me. Because, see, the point is not that they were, that verse, those people that God were rewarding in that verse, is not that they were good and successful at being good. No, it's that the love of God, their love for God was so strong that it just overflowed into their life, and they had no clue. They had no clue that God was using them to be a blessing to others, and they were just loving people for the sake of loving them. And so, see, God didn't reward that group, that missionary, those missionaries, they read that verse a little bit ago. He's not rewarding those groups because they did everything good. No, see, he's rewarding them because they had a relationship with him. They knew him. And because they knew him, they began to act like him. But then there's another group, the same group in the same context. Jesus says there's going to be people that are going to say, hey, I never knew you. I was hungry, you never gave me anything to drink. I was thirsty, you never gave me something to drink. None of this stuff. I was alone and you never visited me. And they're going to say, when did we not? If we knew that was you, we would have gone. We would have done those things. But he said, no, because you didn't do it to the least of these. And in fact, he's going to say, look, I never knew you. And these people are going to be successful people. They're going to even be some Christians, some Jesus followers. They're going to say, Jesus, but I did this for you, and I did that for you, and we did this, and we did that. They were successful, but in the end, they were successful in something that didn't matter, because Jesus in the end said, I never knew you. There was nothing here. It might as well been a hobby for you, man. Being a Christian was like a hobby. You put on the t-shirt, okay? You watched the games, you did all those things, but there was nothing here. And so you guys see, there is very important that we are not successful in the things that don't matter, because see, worship, guys, listen, worship it does involve something that you have to do. But see, in reality, worship and true worship is not limited in something that you must do. It's actually bigger, and it involves something that has already been done. And when you understand that, you understand a couple other things. Now, I want to show you this one. Bible verse. This is the Apostle John. And this guy was one of the dudes. He was an eyewitness. He was there when he heard Jesus have this conversation about loving the Lord God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And then some time goes by. And now, see, Matthew was another person that was there and saw this. Now, Jesus is about to get close to the time when he was going to be crucified on the cross. And he goes to Jerusalem and he steps into the temple. And this was his first experience in the temple. I'm going to read it. It says Matthew 21, 12 to 13. It says, and Jesus entered the temple, and he drove out all who sold and bought in the temple. And he overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold pigeons. He said to them, it is written, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have made it into a den of robbers. Now, there's another verse that's actually in your bulletin. I didn't want to read both. And it kind of gives, John gives a little bit of the detail. For whatever reason, John was struck by this one detail here. And he puts it in his version, and he says this. He noticed that Jesus was off to a corner. After he entered in the temple and saw what was going on, he saw Jesus enter into the, enter into the temple, go off to the side, and he starts getting to a little corner, starts pulling these cords and these ropes, and he starts makeshifting a little whip. Okay? Now, to me, if you can see here, this is a very unique experience. This is a unique moment. Because I want you to follow this here, because I know sometimes it's one thing to see it, and I'll read it, but it's another thing to be able to see it there. See, this Jesus is not something like, okay, guys, all right, look, I'm going to need y'all to go. See, I don't like this, whatever reason, y'all need to. No, see, this Jesus went off, okay? Have you ever been around, you ever seen a video or just been in the presence of someone that just snaps? Have you ever seen that? Like your mama, have you ever had you do something and your mom just had it and she just goes to a level that you never knew, like Super Saiyan level, right? And she just goes like up, oh my gosh. And there's just things that just cause people to just snap, okay? This causes people to snap. And Jesus has this moment. Now, I want you to look at this. Jesus is angry here, okay? He's irate. He's frustrated, extremely frustrated. This guy, he's not just coming and saying, hey, look, can you get, I'm going to need you to get up. No, he's grabbing these things, and he is kicking them out to the point, again, with a whip, just cracking that whip Indiana Jones style and getting everyone to leave. I would have loved to have been the apostles, because to be here in this moment, I would have loved to not only just see Jesus, but I would have loved to see the apostles, seen Jesus' followers, because they never saw Jesus like this. Could you imagine? This is not little innocent little baby Christmas Jesus, right, that we all have under our tree. This is, I'm going to run because Jesus is coming kind of a thing. And so I would have loved to have seen them. I was like, yo, what's up with Jesus? What's up with Jesus? Look, what is it? And he's, just grabbing stuff. And, you can tell when somebody's about to, when you walk in, I don't know with me sometimes, I don't know with my mom, I could tell when I walk in the room, I can see, whoa, okay. I'm just going to wait a couple seconds, right? Or my wife, I tell when she's had a rough day and I come home and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to bother you right now, so hold on a second, right? And so I'm going to let you just breathe for a minute before, and I said, I don't know. And so that's kind of what happened. And so here, I would have loved to have seen Jesus, because Jesus, when he's seeing this, I can see him his chest he's starting to breathe a little heavier. And he's like, no, I had enough of this. And he starts to grab stuff. He's probably sitting in the corner. Why is Jesus not blinking? What is, his eye is twitching. He's just going, and he goes then just start bowing, just busting, yelling, screaming, just red veins busting, and kind of Jesus is this? I would have seen the disciples, who's going to, did anyone try to stop him? Yo, you get him. No, man, you get him. I was like, no. And so I would have loved just to see that moment, because that was must have been really, really interesting, because they were confused. They must have been insanely confused. But see here, guys, this is Jesus, because he did this. Is this approving that, okay, yeah, you can have a freak out moment every once in a while? Can you do that? It's like, hey, Jesus did it. What would Jesus do? Okay, I think I might give me a second here to just kind of vent. Okay, is this giving us permission to do this, to be angry and to be? Now, one thing, guys, I want you to understand is that Jesus never broke stuff, all right? He never, abused their private property. Here says he actually turned over the tables. The money would spill over. And one thing, he didn't take the money and redistribute it again. He didn't do that. He didn't abuse their private property. He just scared the bat snot out of them, okay, and just ran off. And so why was God so upset? Why? Because this is really important, guys, because a lot of times, look, anger is not necessarily a bad thing. It's the expression of that anger that is and causes sin. See, what got Jesus under his skin? See, first off, guys, where is he? He's in the temple. And what is a temple supposed to be? A place of worship. And what is worship? It is the people, this temple was designed to be a place where the people of God can come to him, draw close to him, ask for forgiveness, be forgiven, experience his love. This is supposed to be a special place. Notice, look at the comparisons that Jesus gives. What is this temple supposed to be? A house of prayer. Now, guys, look at the first word he uses, a house. See, what is the temple supposed to be? It's supposed to be home. This is supposed to feel like home. It's supposed to be like family here. It's supposed to be a house of prayer. There's supposed to be communion here, relationship here. And what is prayer? It's communication. There's supposed to be nothing to stand in between you and God. It's supposed to be a place of love and of fellowship, community, home, and a place of communication and connection and prayer. But what did he say? What happened? It's not that. What was it? A den of robbers. Now, guys, some of you kind of know this. Let me just give you back. Like, first off, why are, all these people that he's dealing with, why is he upset at them? See, guys, look, this right here where a lot of, when you read it in scholars say that this event happened at this place called the Court of the Gentiles. See, the temple of God was something that he established. And he said, look, this is for my people to be able to come close to me so that they can experience me, be forgiven, and to love me and to draw close. But you know what? There was also a place called the Court of the Gentiles. The Court of the Gentiles, see, let me tell you what a Gentile is. You and me, okay? If you're a Jew, anybody Jewish here? Maybe not, okay? None. Guess what? We all are, okay? All of us are Gentiles. It's a non-Jew. And see, God says, look, guys, not only do I want to establish this place for you, for my people, I want to give you a place. I want to make a place for the people that are not my people. Again, these Gentiles. I want to make a place where strangers can come and they can meet with me here. They can experience the same thing you experience. And see, guys, here at the temple, here at the Court of the Gentiles, this is where the Jews are supposed to meet the Gentiles. And they were supposed to get together, and they were supposed to talk to him and share, here's who God is, here's what he means, and let's worship him, let's love him together. That's what it was supposed to be. But instead, it was something else. See, somebody had a good idea, guys. And this idea was a good one, okay? This is entrepreneurship at its best, all right? See, what happened was that all these people were coming from across the world to different places. And so, you know what? To come to the temple and to offer a sacrifice meant that you had to have whatever animal it was that you wanted to give. And so for some people, it was hard to be able to travel with more livestock and to bring all these, whether animals or bulls or sheep or whatever. It was a lot. And so it cost a lot of money to feed the animals and protect the animals and get it all the way from point A to point B. So somebody in the temple said, you know what, I got an idea. Why don't we just have livestock in stock? And then what happens is when these people come, they can purchase the animal themselves. And so that way they save money because it's a whole lot cheaper for them just to buy it here. It's going to be more convenient for them. They don't have to lug that animal around everywhere they go, right? It's going to be better for them. It's going to be, they're going to save them money. And then, you know what? We can make a little money on the side, too. We all win. It's a win-win. That was a good idea. There was nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. That was a win-win scenario. But the thing is that somebody got a little greedy at some point. See, what happened was this place of exchange, began to creep its way into the temple itself instead of outside of the temple. It made it all its way to the temple. And here, not only when people were saying, hey, you know what? They're here, and they got nowhere else to go. They got to buy a sacrifice, so let's just up them. Like, look, you guys ever been to Disney and Busch Gardens? How much does a burger cost in one of these places? Right? How much does a burger cost when you go to Disneyland? Like $9. Just for the burger and no bun, right? It's insane. It's like, that's a lot of money. Like, if you want cheese and this and that, that's a lot. And so when you go and you're going to go to these places, why can they charge you so much for the food? Why can they charge you so much for all those things? Why? Because they got you. You ain't got nowhere else to go. You're going to walk around all day, especially here in Florida in the hot sun. You're going to get thirsty. You're going to get hungry. And then be like, oh, so we have food for you here. It's going to cost you $500, right? And so that's what it is. It's expensive. You're going to spend just as much or half as much as the ticket on just food, just feeding yourself, just because of that. And they'll charge you whatever because you ain't got nowhere else to go. You're stuck. And they upcharge you there, right? And so here's the thing. That's what they started doing. And they started charging these people. Again, who were these people? These guys were people who just wanted to come and worship God, and they're taking advantage of them. And they're saying, all right, whatever. Oh, you know what? Prices went up, inflation, and this is what it costs now. And they would pocket that extra money, and they were stealing from them. And then also the money exchangers, because you got people from foreign lands, and they got different money, and they have to exchange it for the Jewish money because of where they are. And so they'll say, oh, well, see, the rate of exchange is different. And so they would cheat them on the exchange and give them less money, and instead of giving them all the money, they would pocket some more themselves. And see, this was happening again, where? In the one place where they were supposed to be worshiping God together. But instead there were distractions. See, the focus was not on God. The focus was on self. The focus was on greed. The focus was on convenience. The focus was on benefiting oneself instead of enjoying and worshiping God and the blessings that he has. But again, what is the comparison that Jesus gives? He said it's supposed to be a home. It's supposed to be a house where we love one another and we encourage one another. It's supposed to be a house of prayer that we're connecting with God. But what have you turned it into? A den of thieves and robbers. Now, here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. Is God upset that these people are robbing them financially? Yes, but he's actually more upset about something else. He's upset at the fact that these individuals are being robbed financially, but he's more upset. He's more upset because these people are being robbed spiritually. Robbed of a moment where they're supposed to be connected with God, yet they can't because there's too much going on. There's too much distractions. And all of these things are not just robbing them of their money, they're robbing them of their time with God. Guys, I want you to understand something too. Look, you and me, God, even though he made a temple at one point, that was a temporary solution. The goal was always for you as an individual to be the temple of God, where God himself can completely dwell inside of you and you and you and me, 100%. That was the goal. He wanted to be that close to us. He didn't want to be off in one place, up in an isolated room all by himself. He wanted to be there and dwell in our hearts. And so, guys, our bodies, we, believers in God, we are temples. That's what I said, because we worship things. And how do we worship things? By filling up and by acknowledging and putting value into other things. And see, we are made to house the Holy Spirit of God. We were made for God himself to dwell in us alone. And see, the thing is that our homes, our houses, our hearts, our minds, our souls, everything about us, we are supposed to be houses of prayer. We're supposed to be a place where God is welcomed in the home of our heart. And not only welcome, but there's communion, there's communication there. But the thing is, guys, again, we can also welcome other things. And those other things can either be our heart can be a house of prayer, or our heart could also be a den of robbers. Because there could be things in your life that are robbing you of time with God. And so here, guys, I have a table. See, to me, when I think of a table, so a lot of us for Thanksgiving, right, we all sat around a table at some point, right? And to me, a table speaks of relationship. It speaks of communion. It speaks of a connection, right? And so the thing is that we have a table in our hearts. And guys, if we are not careful, there's a lot of things that could go on the table of our heart. And these things can rob us of our time. Not all of these things that I'm going to put up here are good things, but they can rob us. For example, whether it be being on the computer and doing work, it could be good things like working or researching and stuff like that. Then there's other things that this itself, though it is an amazing tool, a good tool, it can rob us of time with God. Even here, I got food, I got some stuff here, I got, whatever, I got, music. The music that we listen to, that could rob us if we're not careful, if our worship is not where it needs to be, if our heart's not where it needs to be, or even music itself, even Christian music, or our worship in itself can rob us of our attention. Look, all these things are good, man. There's clothes, sports, right? Playing sports, being athletic, all these things, right? Getting healthy. There's nothing wrong with clothes. There's nothing wrong with this, right? Getting the nice new fit, the nice new shoes that are coming out, whatever, the LeBrons or whatever you're following, right? Having your favorite drinks, having all these things, right? Books, right? I know I'm a nerd. I love to read. And so see, books, guys, are good things, but sometimes even books can rob us of time with God. Okay, again, playing sports, whether being a part of a team, right, or just playing with your buddies outside. Look, even being consumed with politics and the news, though good, can rob you of a lot of time with God, okay? Look, some of us, I love me some coffee, okay? This right here. This is, okay, I need this in my life, right? And so, see, these are good things, right? Oh, whatever, here's another one, right? Entertainment, right? All these are good things that we have, good things that we do, right? Food, again, groceries, whatever it is, right? All of these things. Oh, here's a good one, guys. Sleep, okay? Sleep. Loving sleep. Sleep is good. Sleep is good. I mean, today was one of those days, oh, man, I wish I had that other hour back. Can we just turn that hour even more because I was sleeping good? Guys, sleep, all of these things. And I could put so much more. They're not bad. They are not bad. But these things can be bad if they rob us from our time. I mean, I don't have my phone on here. Our phone can be on there. Where instead, where we could have moments with God. If our phone is put, it all depends on this, guys. What is pulling us? What are we surrendering to? What are we surrendering to? For example, it's like, all right, I'm going to spend some time with God in the morning. Oh, let me hit that snooze button 20 times, right? And so you are surrendering to the emotion, to the feeling of just wanting just to sleep a little more. You are choosing sleep rather than God at that moment. Instead, let's say when you got your phone, right, or whatever, and you got your phone and you want to be, you want to be able to do something, right? And you get on your phone, you get online, you want to look something up, you want to read your Bible, whatever, on the Bible.com and whatnot, and your reading plan. And before you do that, I was like, all right, hold on, let me see what, boop, boop, got a notification, let me check that out. And then you start just running through this and seeing that and going here. I know what that's like. And so sometimes when I go to read my Bible, and if I grab my phone instead, my 30-minute time with God was gone because now I just wasted it looking at emails and this and that. And so, see, that robbed me of that time with God. That robbed me of my time with God. Look, I mean, I put food up here, spending time. What if, hey, God wants to be able to, use you, right? But you know what? You're spending way too much money on entertainment. You're spending way too much money on going out. You're spending way too much money on this, on books, on whatnot, on hanging out with your friends, going out to eat. You got nothing left to be generous with. You got nothing left to give as offering, right? And so that is robbing you, even though spending time with friends, spending time with your family, going out, doing things like that, though good, these things can rob you of your blessings. It could rob you of your time. Even good things can rob you of something better and greater that only God can give you. And see, Jesus, earlier, he had a conversation. And he said, what's the one most important thing you can do? And he said, what? To love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, right? And so he told them this, he told his followers, here's what worship, this is what it is. And he defined it through words. But now here, enough talk. And he wants to give them a new definition of worship. I mean, he wanted to give them a new definition of worship because, see, in the same way we got all these things. Look, video games, some of y'all, right? And so all of these things, right? All of these things can fill up and rob us of our time, rob us of God himself. Though good, all of these things can rob us. And so he's trying to give not only the people there, because you know what? His anger and his frustration, it was all motivated out of love. Because everybody, they were being robbed of a moment with God. And so, see, guys, here he wanted to redefine what worship was. And guys, and I'm going to tell it to you right now. So look, if you got a pen and paper, you're writing this down, I want you to write this down. Okay, if not, whatever, you got your phone on, you want to tweet this, okay, here it is. Ready? I'm going to tell it to you. Here is what worship looks like. This is the definition of what worship is supposed to be. That is worship. This is worship. See, worship, guys, I'm going to put this quote up here. Worship flips the tables of compromise in your life. Worship flips the tables of compromise in your soul. True worship flips the tables of compromise in your heart and everything that you do, because you start to realize all of these things are pulling me from God. I've had enough of this. And instead, you do that and you say, Lord, this is now my heart. This is what worship looks like. It's to constantly remove all things that are robbing you from God. You know, one of the words that translates to the Bible, that we see in English that says worship, one of those words translates into this: a temple sweeper. One of the Greek and Hebrew words that we have for the word worship translates to a temple sweeper. See, guys, worship, true worship, this is how you worship God with all of your strength. That you're constantly removing and on the lookout for things that are robbing you of time with God. And you're saying, all right, you know what? I'm sleeping in way too much. You know, I'm getting up early the other day. I was like, you know what? I keep on hanging out with them way too much. I'm not spending any time with God. I was like, all right, I got to do. I'm giving up my Sundays because I keep on hanging out late on Saturdays. Nope, I got to give it that. I was like, no, every time I get on my computer, I need to chill with my computer because I'm doing some things I shouldn't be doing or whatever. I'm spending way too much money on going out to eat, and I'm not even giving offering. I'm not doing this. And so, guys, this is how to worship God with all of your strength looks like. It's removing and sweeping out. You know, I don't need the brand new 100 pair, $100 shoes. I can deal with 50. What am I doing? This is what worship looks like. It is constantly removing the things that rob you of time with God. And at the same time, guys, it says there, it flips the tables of compromise. It's flipping the tables, guys, of what the world says. Let me show you what Francis Chan says here. He says that the world says to love yourself, to grab all you can and follow your heart. But Jesus says, deny yourself. Grab your cross and follow me. It's flipping the tables of your heart and compromise and choosing to follow Jesus. And guys, to give you even one more, let me show you what Paul says. In Romans 12:1, he says this. He says, I appeal to you, I beg you, my brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual act of worship. Guys, let me tell you here, you want to worship, those of you, if you want to go, do you want a closer relationship with God? Do you want more than just a feeling, more than just an emotion, more than just the goosebumps when you're at, what about when you're in your car, when you're at home? Do you want that? Well, here it says, look, this is how we worship him, by constantly saying, okay, Lord, you tell me what goes on this table. Lord, you are Lord of my life. What needs to go? What needs to stay? You, Lord, are Lord of my life. And constantly removing these things. Now, see, guys, part of us, and this is the good news, I was able to flip that table. But, see, a lot of times there's things that come that we allow into our hearts. And we're not so easily, in our own strength, can we remove these things, because they get entrenched deep down. And they rob us, and they eat away at us. And take away, they rob the joy that we're supposed to have in God. They rob the blessings and the purpose and all these things. It just takes it away. But guys, here, what I want us to see is that we can be this kind of a living sacrifice. We can present our lives, the mess of what it is, we can present it all to him. And we can experience something that none of us could achieve on our own because of this. See, what worshipers do, worshipers surrender with what they have left. See, guys, a true worshiper understands, you know what, I can't love the Lord God with all my heart because I've given my heart away way too much. And I got doubts in my heart. I can't figure out certain things. Some of us, we cannot worship the Lord with all of our soul because sometimes we just don't feel like it. Sometimes we've just given way too much of ourselves and it's not coming from the deepest part of us. We're wrestling with that. Guys, some of us, we can't worship God with all of our minds because we can't even control certain thoughts that just keep on entering in our thoughts towards people, thoughts towards different things. And guys, some of us, we can't even worship God with all of our strength because a lot of times we just don't feel like doing things. A lot of times we make a mistake, and sometimes we can make the mess of our lives trying to make sense of it all. But see, the beautiful thing is, guys, worshipers understand that we surrender everything we have left, knowing that the mess and what it is, imperfect, broken pieces and all, it's what it is. But God accepts it. See, we can surrender, guys, with everything that we have left because of God, because he sacrificed all that he had for us. And see, guys, the point is, it's not to do something because I told you to do it. It's not to do something because that's what you're supposed to do. But see, a true worshiper, a true follower of Jesus Christ, okay, understands that he doesn't have to surrender. He gets to. He doesn't have to do it out of obligation. He does it out of appreciation for what God has done. We surrender with what we have left because God sacrificed everything he had for you and for me. And now the ultimate tables have been turned. Okay, it's now instead when we were before enemies of God, when we surrender everything to God, we become friends of God. Where before we were maybe lovers of self, right? Instead, now God flips it and he gives us his heart, his mind, and all these things. And now we're able to love others and be that blessing. And to be the mom and the dad that we needed to be that brother and sister and that son or daughter that we struggle to be at times. You know, when we allow Jesus to clear our table and to flip things right side up, before we were enemies of God, now we're friends of God. Before we were far from God, now we're near from God. Before we were poor, and now we're rich in blessings in him. Before we were hated, now we're loved. Before we had the wrath of God coming towards us, now it's the blessings and the inheritance of God that comes to us. Before we were weak, unable to do everything, but now through Christ, God says, even though you're weak, you can be strong. And my strength is strong, actually displayed in your weakness. And so, guys, with this, I'm going to challenge you as we get ready for the Christmas season, because Christmas is hectic. Christmas is hectic. You talking about things that rob you of money to be able to be a blessing to others. It's getting caught up with stuff, right? And doing this and doing that, right? And there's all the movies that are, coming out in Christmas, and it's, and all those things are great. But let me challenge you guys this Christmas, during this time, if we want to be worshipers of the Lord God, if we want to see God truly show up, guys, we got to make room for when he does. Because God could show up in your life, but if it's too cramped, he can be like, you know what? All right, I'll come back later. But when we make the space, when we humble ourselves, and even in surrender, you may think, wait, surrender means to quit. Surrender means to lose. If you lose, then that's not good. But see, the beautiful thing about God is that when we surrender, we win. We exchange, we're a loss, and we get this gain. And it is only something that God, he can give. Guys, he can give. And so my challenge to you this week, what is robbing you of God? What is robbing you of your joy? Now, here, I just put stuff up here. There's things that I couldn't put up here. Some of it is people. Some of it is things like depression that is stealing from you. It is robbing you of your joy. Some of you, it is just an issue that you got with your parents. And there's constant tension in the house. And he's robbing you of joy. He's robbing you of peace in that home. There's plenty of things, guys, that could be robbing us. But see, Jesus is strong enough and mighty enough to flip over everything and to clear the space and to fill that gap and to make things right.